And we are live. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm so excited to have you all here. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey to learn some JavaScript. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be intense. We're going to have 6 weeks of super fun JavaScript learning. And I'm here with you. We're going to learn together. We're going to be a big group. And we're almost 9,000 learners together, and I can't wait to go on this journey with the rest of you. A little bit about me. Hi, my name's Ramon, coming to you live from Vienna in Austria. And yeah, we're gonna be doing some JavaScript. Couple. Am I echoing? Oh dear. Sorry if there's a bit of an echo. Please, I hope I can fix it. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little. I've been reading a little bit of the chat before we started just to see where folks are joining in from. It's wonderful to see. I'm so excited to go on this journey with the rest of you. I'm not going to beat around the bush too much. Let's make sure when you're learning to have a good drink with you, something to keep you hydrated. We're going to be doing no echo. Ooh, fantastic. Hey there, Taha. Nice to meet you. Yeah, we're going to make sure to stay hydrated. Make sure before we get started to be signed up for the course on freecodecamp.org. That's where you'll see where I am right now in my browser. Hope the size is okay. Give me a shout if it's too small. And yeah, make sure you're signed up. Make sure that you've got a freecodecamp.org account. You can sign up by clicking on this Get Started, It's Free button. And yes, what we're doing here is a free bootcamp. So we're going to be learning JavaScript together as we go. Now, once you've signed up, we can dive right in. So what we're going to be starting with today, as you can see in the title, is we're going to be doing the fundamentals of JavaScript. We're going to be learning to code together from the beginning. So let's get right to it. All right. So let's click on that Get Started, It's Free button. And from there, what we'll see is all of the different courses offered by Free Code Camp. We've got responsive web design. There's a course being taught by the wonderful Jess that's taking place in the mornings in my time. If you're interested in doing web development, I totally recommend that. That is at the bottom. I apologize. Yes, the responsive web design beta. If you're doing both, that's totally cool. Folks, in case you're wondering, is this going to be recorded? Yes, absolutely. The YouTube video will stay recorded after we're done, so you can watch at any time if you're joining at a later time. Hello. All right. But what we're going to be doing is the JavaScript algorithms and data structures certification. So let's just hop right in, shall we? So we're going to be learning some JavaScript. We're going to be learning, amongst other things, some JavaScript fundamentals, some object-oriented programming, functional programming, a whole bunch of stuff. And if that sounds like a whole load of gibberish right now, that's totally cool. We're going to be learning this together. There's going to be some confusion, but hey, we will just keep going at it. Some of these things might sit at the back of their minds and then come back later on and be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember doing arrays or loops or functions or even variables. So let's have a look right away, shall we? How exciting. Now, we will be starting with basic JavaScript. So that's going to be like right away where we'll be starting out from. And we've got a whole bunch of JavaScript to cover for the beginning, for the fundamentals. Folks, just so you know, I'm going to be going through the lessons with you. In order to streamline it, we're going to save the questions until the end. If there's any pressing questions or some like super big concerns, I will, of course, happily answer them. But after we're done with the core session, we're going to hop into question time, and you can ask me any kind of questions you got. And of course, I'll ask our wonderful assistants to help us out. So yes, we've got a lot of JavaScript fundamentals to cover, as you can see, 113 lessons. And we're going to be doing that for the next 4 lessons. So that's today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Monday. And yes, these are 1-hour lectures. So let's not lectures. See, we're just learning together. So we're going to start right from the beginning. So if you're already signed up, make sure you're signed up. Make sure you've got an account. Make sure you are in Free Code Camp. make sure you are sitting somewhere comfortable, you're learning somewhere nice, and you've got something to keep you hydrated. And we're going to hop right into commenting your JavaScript code. So let's jump right in. So JavaScript. Let's talk about JavaScript. What is JavaScript? JavaScript is one of the most used programming languages at the moment around the world. It powers the web, and in the last 10 years has also powered the backend. That is servers. A bunch of servers run on JavaScript now. But it started out in the 90s as a web browser programming language. And I believe, I could be wrong, it was designed in 2 weeks, which is really fast. So a lot of people recommend learning JavaScript, and we're going to be learning JavaScript together. So let's hop right in, shall we? Let's start with comments. What are comments? Comments are going to be used for us as software developers, as software programmers, as software engineers to leave ourselves notes. When we're writing programs, if you want to think, I like to think of programs as recipes, right? Like say cooking recipes. When I'm thinking of comments, what I like to think about comments is as a post-it note. I do not have a post-it note with me here to show you, but you know what I mean. Leaving a post-it note just so that I can tell myself as a programmer or for other people, hey, this is what I was doing. So let's have a look. For example, here with the double slash, by having 2 forward slashes, we can write a comment. Hello, I am a comment. So what you'll see here on the left is our instructions, and on the right is our code. And here we can write our code, and at the bottom, we will see the output of our program. But since I just wrote, hello, I am a comment, that gets ignored by the program. We're just leaving ourselves notes. And there are 2 ways to do this. One is, as you can see here, with the double forward slash. The other way to do it is with a forward slash and a star. Oh, a star. That's not a star. That's a star. With a star. And this is what's called a multi-line comment. I can go across multiple lines. Spell. There we go. Folks, if the size is okay, please give me a shout if the size is okay. If I should make it bigger, I would totally appreciate that as well. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I believe you should be able to get automatic captions. I'm not sure if that's activated for us, but I hope so. All right. So as you write, let's take a look at what it says here. As you write code, you should regularly add comments to clarify the function of parts of your code. Good commenting can help communicate the intent of your code, both for learners and for your future self. And I think that's super important. One of the secret, most important skills that we have as software programmers is, I'm very glad to hear size is good. One of our most important skills as programmers is the ability to communicate effectively. So let's see, we've got 2 comments. So our instruction, we've got an instruction here. Try creating one of each type of comment. And we've already done that. So I've written a comment with double slash, and I've written a multi-line caption here. No captions. Okay, good to know. Sorry about that, folks. So if we click on run the tests, then we'll be able to have free code camp check whether we did the instructions correctly. So let's do that. And there we go. We've completed our first exercise in JavaScript. We are 1% complete. We got a long way to go, but we'll get there. So submit and go to the next challenge. Let's go to the next challenge. And we're going to be doing this, lots of this over the next couple of weeks. So in computer science, so we're going to be declaring variables next. Variables. You've probably, if you've done some software development, you might have heard of variables. Let's talk about what variables are. In a technical standpoint, variables are a keyword that we can use to store data in, that we can refer to later. These are stored in the memory of our program. But let's go with a metaphor. I love metaphors. And I'm stealing this one from my good friend, Jess. Let's think of a variable as a box. And in this box, we will store something that we can refer to later. We can say, please put in my box this little value. And then later on, we can come back and be like, oh yeah, let me get the value from my little box. Yes, and I get my value. So in JavaScript, we can declare variables using var and then the name of the variable. So for example, var let's call this variable, let's call this variable dog. So now we've declared a variable called dog. And we can do this with lots of different kinds of names. We can have any name we want. Cat, var cheese, var mouse. So we will be able to use var to be able to declare variables. Couple rules for this. I believe you need to start with a letter. Now, let's look at our instructions. Use the var keyword to create a variable called my name. So let's look at var my name and end our line with a semicolon. That semicolon tells us that we've reached the end of our line. Most lines will end with a semicolon. More on that later. So now I see a couple of you are eagerly excited to know about the other ways of declaring variables. Don't worry, we'll get there. Let's run our tests. And now we are 2% of the way done. I'm very happy. All right. Now, we've got a variable. Let's look at our code first. We've got a variable called a. Now, the thing about this variable, this box, is it's currently empty. It does not have a value inside it. So what we need to do is give it a value or assign a value. And we will be doing that using the equal sign, otherwise known as the assignment operator. So we will say, hey, variable a, you will have the value of, for example, let's copy here on the left. Let's give it the value 5. Now our program doesn't do anything you see here at the bottom. It just says your test output will go here. And that's just because we've assigned the value 5 to our variable a, but we haven't done anything with it. So I'm going to actually cheat a little bit and skip a little bit ahead. By the way, folks, if you're joining late, just to let you know, these will be saved on YouTube, so you can go back at any time. If you're watching this late, hello again. If you're watching these later, that is. So yes, let's jump a little ahead and called console.log. Now this is a function that lets us be able to print out in our console at the bottom of our program here, anything that we put in there. So let's put in a, see what happens. Aha, see, now we've got our program printing out the value number 5. That's because we have taken our variable, our box a, been like, hey, I would like to print out the value that's inside this box, opened it up, and now we've got 5. And now some folks in the chat might be saying, yes, we're going to be using console log a lot. So it's something to familiarize yourself with. It's really handy because you can just type out anything you like. For example, console log, let's say the number 2. Now check it out what happens when you have 2 console logs. See, we've got 5, which is the value from a, and 2. So having done that, let's look at our exercise. Assign the value 7 to the variable a. So this is incorrect. We are assigning the value 5. So let's do what it wants and assign the value 7. Check it out. Our console has now changed. We will now be printing out the number 7. So let's remove those console logs. Only change code below this line. Oh dear. Oh dear. I did not follow the instructions correctly, did I? Only change code below this line. So another thing we can do is, yes, we've declared an empty variable here, but we can also use the assignment operator to assign a value later on. My bad. And if we, this is interesting. Console log a. Let's console log a here. It's undefined. Now you might be wondering, but I thought we declared a to have the value 7. But you see, what happens in these programs is they get read out line by line, right? So first we declare that variable, then we print out that empty variable, and then we assign the value 7. So what we want to do, check it out. What if we console log after doing it? Now we will have undefined because on line 5, we printed out an empty variable. Then on line 7, we printed out 7. So there we go. Let's delete those and now run the tests. Yes! Oh, one thing I like to do after I've done an exercise, give myself a little pat on the back. Everybody else, if you want to join in, it's cheesy, it's me, it's fine. So let's submit and go to the next challenge. We are 3% of the way done. Nice. Okay, so now we're going to assign the value of one variable to another. So let's take a look at our example. We've got a variable called myvar. We give that myvar the value 5. Then we declare another variable called mynum. And then we assign the value of mynum to be myvar. Okay, that's a lot to take in. What I like to do with these is to just throw in a bunch of console logs just to see what's going on. So let's have a look. Console log A is undefined, yes, because we didn't give it a value yet. Console log A again will give us 7. That's good. Then, now we've got a new variable called B. Let's console log that. What do we think it's going to be? Before I do it. Anybody? There's a bit of a lag in the chat, isn't there? But some of you might have already guessed. There we go. It's going to show us undefined, right? Because we haven't given the variable B a value. Yes, look at all those undefineds coming in the chat. Wonderful. Nice one. You're already doing much better than I was when I was starting out. So, but what if we declare, like here, mynum equals myvar? Let's do that, but instead with A and B. Let's declare B to have the same value as A. Now what happens if I console log B? Let's find out. B now has, let me delete the other console logs. I think we're pretty familiar with those. Let's take a look at that one in line 7. Yes, it's got the value 7. Now, if I console log A, it should have the same value, which is fantastic. However, hey, look at all those 7s coming in the chat. Fantastic. Now, what if we've got a variable? What if we change the value of A? A is now equals to, let's say 8. Now, you know what? 9. Now we console log B. Will it be 7 or 9? Let's find out. It's still 7. However, A is still 9 because we changed A, not B. And so what we're doing is saying, hey, if we look, we now have got 2 boxes, right? Hey, B will have the same value as A. But if I change the contents of A, B won't change. So that's how that works. Now, let's do the actual instructions instead of me going way off board. Assign the contents of A to variable B. And that's what we've done. Assign the contents of A to variable B. Fantastic. Let's run the tests. Yes, pat. Awesome. We are 4% of the way done. See, we're already hitting the ground running. Cool. We are initializing variables with the assignment operator. Aha! Now this is where I got ahead of myself. That's right. Some folks are wondering, why is it doing it like this? It's because it goes line by line. Each line is operated one at a time. Now, where were we? We need to define a variable A with var and initialize it to the value of 9. So var A equals 9. And just to double check, let's console log that. Got the value of 9. Fantastic. Define a variable A with var and initialize it to a value of 9. Let's run our tests. Still at 4%, but hey, progress. Pat. Let's keep going. Folks, just a quick reminder, there will be a recording of this. It's being saved on YouTube as we speak. So, new concept. We are going to declare string variables. So let's have a look. We've got a variable here called my name, and inside we've got something with some quote marks called your name. Now, what a string is a message. It can be any piece of text, and it doesn't have to just be words. Let's play around with one. Var string, and let's call it new string. No, we're going to call it my string because it's my string. And we're going to set it to have the value of hello JS Bootcamp 2022. So there we have. Let me put a semicolon because I'm a good citizen. Folks, if the size is okay, it's not okay at any point, as always, please feel free to speak up. Now, we're saying, hello, JavaScript Bootcamp 2022. So we've got, oh, you know what? The logo is blocking that. Let me get rid of that logo. Yeah, that should be better. Now, yes, we've got a string here. And what, as said, this string can have any value. This string can have any message inside it. So it can say, hello, Ramon, and the JavaScript Bootcamp 2022. I'm not picky about putting the accent in my name, but I can do it sometimes. Anyway, please increase the size a bit. I'll bump it up once. I hope that's okay, folks. Okay, so hello, Ramon, and the JavaScript Bootcamp. And the cool thing about it is, just like before, we can console log that. My string. And check it out. We have now console logged hello, Ramon, and the JS Bootcamp 2022. So now we've got a string with this value. And this can be any value. It can have any have any message inside it. So we will, folks, I'm seeing somebody in the chat saying the video is blurry. May I recommend increasing, getting to a higher connection, perhaps? Or maybe somebody in our lovely assistants can help out. Yeah, sorry about that. Now, where were we? Yes, and this is a string literal. This means any string of characters can go inside it, and that's where the technical term comes from. It is a string of characters. So let's look at our instructions. Create two new string variables, my first name and my last name, and assign them the values of your first and last name, respectively. Cool. So let's declare a new variable called my first name, and we'll give it the value of, let's give it my name for now. One, and var my last name, Lovro. Perfect. Awesome. So we've declared two variables here, and we've given each of them a different string. So my first name is Ramon, and my last name is Vidoro. Let's run the tests. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let's console log them. I love console logging. It makes me feel safe in what I'm doing. My last name. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. Yes, we're just printing out the values of these variables into the bottom here, which is our output. With that done, let's run the tests. Yes. Pat, let's move on to the next one. Cool. We are now understanding uninitiated and initialized variables. So when JavaScript variables are declared, they have an initial value of undefined. We've seen that a couple of times when printing them out. If you do a mathematical operation on an undefined variable, your result will be NaN, which means not a number. If you concatenate a string with an undefined variable, you will get a literal string of undefined. Let's give it a try. Let's console log that. Let's console log A here and let's see what happens. We've got a variable A, a variable B, and a variable C. And here we will print out A, which will give us not a number. Why? Because we've tried adding 1 to NaN. So far, so good. Let's try it with B and see what happens. B. Also NaN, not a number. So we've tried adding undefined to 5, which gives us NaN. Fabio here makes an excellent point. They will give you some hints. And also there's a get help button here, which will give you some hints. So, by the way, folks, don't worry. If you've got any questions, I will be sticking around after the lesson and answering as many of them as I can. So, where was I? Let's take a look at our instructions here. We will initialize the 3 variables A, B, and C with 5, 10, and IAMA respectively, so that they will not be undefined. So let's do that. A will have the value of 5. B will have the value of 10, and C will be a string. See the quotes? And that will be I am A. And notice, let's see what happens. Let's console log now. A will now have a value of 6 because we've set A to be A plus 1. And the value inside A at this time is 5. So we're really saying 5 plus 1. Assign that to A, which is now 6. Awesome. Let's console log B. 15, because 10 plus 5 is 15. Finally, let's console log C. I am a string. Now, how did it add that space there? You see, at the beginning of the string, we have a space. That's how we get that extra space here. So that's how that works. Awesome. So we've got 3 variables and we've reassigned them. By the way, in case you're curious, you can do all kinds of stuff inside console log. You can, for example, do A plus B. What will that give us? 21. Why? Because 15 plus 6 is 21. But more on that later. So we've got this here. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's run the tests. Marvelous. Pat, let's move on to the next one. Understanding case sensitivity in variables. So, in JavaScript, all variables and functions names are case sensitive. What that means, let's jump right into figuring out what that means. Let's see here. We've actually got an error. Look at that. Reference error, studly cap var is not defined. And indeed, on line 7, we're trying to use a variable called, in all caps, all capital letters, studly cap var, which does not exist. Because you might say, well, here on line 2, we've defined a variable called studly cap var. However, it's got different case. Case in this sense means the difference between uppercase, such as let's say a big U, letter U, or lowercase, which means a small u, or uppercase, which means a big U. So it depends. Oh, thank you, Joanna. Joanna writes, Ramon, you're so wonderful, so smiley and happy. Thank you. Thank you. I'm having a wonderful time. All right. Now, studly cap var here has a mixture of upper and lower case, but studly cap var here has only uppercase, and that's why it's not working. So what is the best practice here? In JavaScript, we use something called camel case. So camel case will mean that every new word in a variable name will have the first letter be capitalized. You see, JavaScript variables and function names, we'll get to functions later, cannot have white spaces in them. So we've got a variable called sum variable, and you see for the new word, the V is capitalized. Another variable name, you see the V is capitalized, the N is capitalized. And this variable name is so long, and so on and so forth. Now, in case you're interested, folks, the reason it's called camel case is because it kind of looks like camel humps, right? And there's totally lots of different ways for lots of other types of casing. For example, there's another type that's called snake case. That's where you use an underscore character to define different words. But for camel case, you use this. And for JavaScript, we're going to be using nothing but camel case for now. Mostly camel case for now. So let's fix this. Modify the existing declarations and assignments so their names use camel case. Do not create any new variables. Hoo-hoo. All right. We are not declaring new variables. All right. What? I'm going to get just ever so sidetracked. Jason asks, what other languages use snake case? For example, 2 that I can think of are Ruby and Rust. But we're learning JavaScript. Let's get back to JavaScript and camel case. So studly cap var should be studly cap var. Proper camel case looks good here. Title case over. Title case. There's one. This one's easy to fix though. We can do Python, of course. Thank you, Manuel. Mano Carmen. All right. So now we need to still have this error here. Studly cap var is not defined. That's because we need to do studly cap var. Now, check it out. Reference error, proper camel case is not defined. So we've actually fixed our error. For those of you that are joining in, folks, remember two things. Python uses snake case. Thank you, Kisley. Couple things. First off, bear in mind, these lessons will be recorded, so you can watch them at any time. No stress. We're here learning together. Second, be sure to be signed up for freecodecamp.org, and thank you. And doing the lessons here, you can do it all in your browser. All you need is a computer and a smile. So, studly cap var. Now, check this out. Now we've printed out the value 10 because we've assigned that value to this variable. So let's fix our next error. Proper camel case is not defined. That's because proper camel case looks better. Let's console log that. Console.log proper camel case. Let's check it out. Two things. First off, we see here, this is a string. Excellent. And reference error. Title case over is not defined. That's because we still don't have all of them properly done. Whew. So that's all done. Now, and remember, folks, I will be very happy to answer questions at the very end. Just want to make sure that everybody can focus on the lesson for now. And then at the end, let's ask a whole bunch of questions. So, title case over. So we can do title case over. If some of you are wondering, oh gosh, Ramon, you are typing a lot. Why don't you copy and paste your code? I like typing. It's nice. Case over. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. We programmers are very lazy people. So console.log title case over, and here you can see it's got the value of 9,000. So fingers crossed. Let's run the tests. Yes, pat. Let's go on to the next challenge. Look at us. We're just making it through them. By the way, folks, we're going to cover as much as we can today. If for tomorrow, we're going to be starting at the next section. So I will be letting you know at the end, which is the next section we'll do. And feel free as homework to catch up when you can. I'm here to help you hit the ground running. Now, where were we? Yes. Now we're talking. Explore the differences between the var and let keywords. And some of you were asking about let in the chat before. This is where let comes in. Let is essentially another way to declare a variable. Now, now you might be wondering, why do we have let if we already have var? And that's an excellent question. See, there's at least two ways to declare variables. One is with var, which we saw before, and the another one is called let. Now, let, in case you're curious, is actually rather new. With let, which was introduced with something called ES6. Now, you've probably seen in the syllabus for this class, ES6 is something that we're going to be covering. But in short, ES6 is a major update that came to JavaScript in the last few years, which, amongst other things, lets us declare variables with let. Now, you might be wondering why. I'll show you why. Let's take a look at what we have here. We have var cat name equals Oliver, and we have var cat sound equals meow. So let's console log cat name. I love console log. Oliver, fantastic. Now, here's what we can do. Something I didn't tell you. Pat is indeed the sound of me patting my shoulders. Yeah. Console log cat name gives us Oliver. But here, check it out. Something I didn't tell you. Var cat name. Geraldine. Now we have redeclared the variable cat name and given it the value Geraldine. Let's see what happens if I console log that now. Cat name out gives us the value Geraldine. So with var, we can declare a var more than once. However, with let, we cannot do that. With let, you can declare a variable at most one time. See, identifier cat name has already been declared in line 4. You can see on line 4, there's an error there that says, hey, cat name's already been defined. So what are we doing? We're trying to use let in order to let us say, hey, we want to define a variable, declare a variable only once. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't change the value later on. That would make it immutable. But variables declared with let are mutable, are changeable. You can change the value inside the box. So here we've had our Oliver, and then afterwards we change the value of cat name to be Geraldine. Console.log cat name. So let's look at the instructions now. So unlike var, when you use let, a variable with the same name can only be declared once. Update the code so it only uses the let keyword. Let's do that. I'm going to delete my mess here. So I've got let cat name equals Oliver and let cat sound equals meow. Let's console log those just to be on the safe side. Oliver, cat sound, meow. Fantastic. Fingers crossed this works. Run the tests. Yes! Pat myself on the back, and I hope you're all patting yourselves on the back too. Otherwise, it would be silly if I were doing it alone. Submit and go to the next challenge. So now comes our next kind of variable. This is called a const variable. Const is short for constant. Constant meaning it cannot change. It is, as the fancy people say, immutable. So instead of me blabbering on, let's play around with it. We will change this line. We've got FCC equals free code camp. Then we've got FCC var fact equals is cool. We change fact to be is awesome. Oh, look at this. We put a comma between FCC and fact. And here we can see free code camp is awesome. Excellent. And you can see instead of saying it's cool, actually, I love console logging. FCC, comma, fact. Check it out. Free code camp is cool. And then free code camp is awesome. So what if we were to try instead of var to go with const? Let's make fact a const. Cool. We get an error. Fact is read only. Read only means that you can only read the value. You can't write the value. It cannot be changed. But that's okay. Let's not panic. Let's go with one of my fancy new ways of doing this, which is let. With let, I can change it to is awesome, which is good. It is indeed awesome. So let's see what our instructions are. Wait, what happens on line 1 if we change it to const? Nothing. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? In my opinion, that's a good thing. You see, we declared a variable on line 1, which is a constant called FCC, which is value free code camp. We never changed the value of FCC, but on line 4, we read the value of FCC. That's why our program runs. So change the code so that all variables are declared using let or const. Use let when you want a variable to change, and const when you want the variable to remain constant. Also, rename variables declared with const to conform with common practices, meaning constants should be in all caps. Oh dear. So where does it say that? You should always name variables that you don't reassign using the const keyword. A common practice when naming constants is to use all uppercase letters with words separated by an underscore. Well, well, well. Now, fun fact. Here's a new type of It's going to be all capital letters with words separated by an underscore. Now, fun fact, this is called screaming case, screaming snake case, either screaming case or screaming snake case, one of the two. So it would be, for example, free code camp. So let's write that here again, free code camp. And yes, it's because it's a snake and it's screaming, I guess, because it's in all capital letters. Awesome. So rename variables declared with const to conform with common practices, meaning constants should be in all caps. Let's see if we got it. Oh, I did it wrong. Check it out. And this is what happens when we make a mistake. You see, you should change FCC to be all uppercase. FCC should be a constant variable declared with const. Console log should be changed to print the FCC and fact variables. So I did this wrong. I should not have renamed this to be free code camp. This should be FCC. I'm going to try not to scream. FCC. Here, FCC. There we go. I tried to scream away from the microphone so I don't alarm people. Cool. So free code camp is awesome. Good. Free code camp is indeed awesome. Let's run our tests again. Yes, we are 9% of the way done with learning JavaScript, folks. Ain't that something? I'm going to give myself a pat on the back, pat, pat, and let's move on to the next challenge. Very important. Folks, you will occasionally see this message to contribute to free code camp when you can. Everything they do is open source and done by volunteers. I will say only if you can afford it, if you're comfortable doing so, throw them a couple bucks a month. It's super helpful towards getting this. I myself do it on another account, but for teaching purposes, I have to have an empty account. But of course, don't feel pressured. Like if you're feeling pressured, I'm gonna have a stern talk with you. So where were we? We're going to add two numbers with JavaScript. So here we've got a constant, which means it can't be changed, called sum, that has the value of 10 plus 0. Let's console log that right away. Big thank you to Free Code Camp, by the way, for their excellent materials. So console log sum gives us 10 because 10 plus 0 is 10. But it can be also 10 plus 1 is 11. 10 plus 2 is 12. And so can we do more than one? Absolutely, we can do more than one. So we can do 10 plus 0 plus 5 is 15. 10 plus 0 plus 5 plus 10 gives us 25. And so on and so forth. Now, this can be done with other mathematical operations as well, by the way. What about 10 plus 0 plus 5 minus 10? What do we think it's going to do if I do minus? It's going to be 5. Fantastic. So my var now has the value 15. Now let's do our exercise. Change the 0 so that the sum will be equals to 20. Okay, so what plus what is equals to 20? We could do 10. That gives us 20. We could do 10 plus 1 plus 9, which technically also equals 20. But for the sake of simplicity, we can just make it 10 plus 10, which gives us 20. So, by the way, don't forget, folks, this is a const, which means if I try to change sum to be 20, sum is read only. We get an error because this is a constant. It is unchangeable. So let's run our tests. Yes! Pat, pat, pat on the back. We are 10% of the way done. Oh, sorry, not learning JavaScript, learning basic JavaScript. We've got a while to go, folks. But don't be discouraged. We're in this together. Remember, if at any point you've got any questions or concerns, feel free to write in the Class Central forums. We've got a dedicated forum for this bootcamp. Write your questions. Get in touch. Yeah, bootcamp forum, group.classcentral.com. Feel free to write your questions or your concerns. Feel free to find study partners. We're all in this together. And besides, if you fall behind, don't stress. These lessons are recorded. We have all the time in the world to learn together. So let's submit and go to the next challenge. Now we're going to, see, I was talking about this before. We're going to subtract one number from another with JavaScript. That was a hard sentence to read. So const difference has a value of 45 minus 0. Console log that. What do we think? 45. Very good. Now. Ed makes an excellent point. Constants should be all caps. So const sum in all caps. We forgot our screaming snake case. Thank you, Ed. That was an excellent point. So difference. So there we go. Here we have difference equals 45 minus 0. Console log difference. Difference is not defined. So now let's do our actual exercise. Change the 0 so the difference is 12. Now you might see here reference error, difference is not defined. That's because I suspect because of the tests. Let's have a look. So what's minus 45? Sorry, 45 minus what is 12? Now I got to do math. 45, it's a good thing we have a computer here, huh? 33, somebody says. Let's see. Is indeed 12. So we're still getting that error. We're going to find out about that in just a second. So const difference equals 45 minus 33. And if you console log that, that gives us 12. So change the 0 so the difference is 12. Let's run our tests. See, and I suspected that was the error. The variable difference should be equals to 12. You should only subtract one number from 45. The error here comes from the fact that I renamed this variable. Now, here's the thing, folks. Consistency is a very good thing, but it doesn't happen always. Even though it is a best practice to call your consts with screaming snake case, it's not always going to be there. So this is fine, but it's not a best practice. And I believe the tests expect this difference to be lowercase, which is fine. Let's run the tests again. Fingers crossed. Yes, we did it. Pat, pat. Pat on the back. Let's submit and go to the next challenge. Look at us, folks. We're just blazing through these. Multiply two numbers with JavaScript. We can also multiply one number by another. JavaScript uses the star symbol for multiplication of two numbers. So here let's take a look here. We've got const product equals 8 times 0. So 8 times 0. If we console log that, what do we think we're going to see? Product 0, because 8 times 0 is 0. Now, some of you might be wondering, why is it a star? When I learned mathematics in school, we used a cross. And that's just because of the symbols on the computer. If we use X, JavaScript will be confused and be like, hey, what is this X? We don't have a variable called X. So that's the reason we're doing it that way. So in most programming languages, including JavaScript, multiplication will be done with a star, with an asterisk. So let's change the 0. Magdalena writes, these sessions are so therapeutic. Well, that's very kind. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's change the 0 so that the product will equals 80. And I believe someone in the chat already wrote, yes, Druvel, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You suggested changing the 0 to 10. Let's give that a try. And that indeed gives us an 80. Thank you. Very nice. Awesome. So change the 0 so that the product is equals to 80. 8 times 10 is 80. That looks good. Let's run the tests. Fingers crossed. Yes! Pat, pat on the back. We are now 12%. Somebody asked, do we need to... Who else is pat-patting with the joy at the end of every session? Thank you, Renee. That's very kind. I'm having a great time. We got a question here from somebody. Do we need to reach 100% tonight? Absolutely not. We're going to be doing basic JavaScript for the next 4 sessions. So we will be done by next Monday, in a week from today. So no stress. Now, let's submit and go to the next section. Divide one number by another with JavaScript. We can also divide one number by another. JavaScript uses the / symbol for division. So let's take a look at what we got here. Const quotient, very fancy word, quotient, 66 divided by 0. Let's console log that. What do we think it's going to be, folks? Maybe you're faster at guessing than I am at typing. Quotient. Infinity. That's right. That's because dividing anything by 0 will either give you an error or be infinity. In JavaScript's case, it's infinity. Cool. And we can divide, again, lots of stuff. For example, if I divide 66 by 2, that gives us 33. If I divide again by 3, that gives us 11. If I divide by 11, that gives us 1. So you can, just like with addition, just like with subtraction, and I kind of forgot to do it with multiplication, but it works there as well. Doing lots of mathematical operations in a row is totally going to work. Now, let's get to the exercise. Change the 0 so that the quotient is equals to 2. And I see some folks in the chat. Hey, some of you are eager. Some of you are already giving me the answer here. So that the quotient is equals to 2. And some people are correctly saying 33. 66 divided by 33. Thank you, Siddiq. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Is 2. So change the quotient. I think we're good. Let's delete our console log and run our tests. Yes, pat on the back. We are ready for the next lesson. So next lesson is to increment a number with JavaScript. Now this is what's called a shortcut. You see, before we look at the left side, let's look at the right side here. So we've got a variable called myvar, which has a value of 87, and we're changing to be myvar plus 1. Feel free to write out your guesses as to what the answer will be. I'm going to console log it. Let's have a look. Myvar. Right. So 87, we're reassigning that to be 87 plus 1, which is 88, which is all well and good. But here's a nice little shortcut that JavaScript gives us. It's called the increment. And what you can do is myvar plus plus. And what myvar plus plus does is say, hey, take my value of myvar and give it the same value plus 1. Now, what that means is that myvar plus plus and myvar equals myvar plus 1 are exactly the same function. They're doing the exact same thing. And in fact, if we console log, as you see here, first we print out 88, we run it again, it's 89. So this just is a nice short way of doing the same thing as this. So look at our exercise. Change the code to use the plus plus operator on myvar. And you can see it's already done. So that's fantastic. Let's run the tests. Fingers crossed. Yes. Let's do a pat on the back and move on. Oh, somebody asked a question here that I find interesting. Why cannot we do myvar equals myvar plus plus? That's a great question. And in order to do that, let's try it out. What happens if we do myvar equals myvar plus plus? I'm going to tell you right away, folks. I have no idea what's going to happen. Let's do a console log and find out. So this is interesting. Even though we assigned the value myvar to be 11, and then we assigned myvar to be myvar plus plus, myvar kept its same value. Now, if I remove that, it gets 12. So that doesn't actually, so assigning myvar to be myvar plus plus keeps it at 11. There's your difference. Hope that makes sense. So incremented but not updated. Well said, Danish. I like that. Because it's incremented but not updated. So And that's because it's done after the operation, as some folks are pointing out. So let's go move on to the next one. We've got a couple minutes left. We're going to do a couple more sessions here, and then we're going to start answering some questions. So you can easily decrement or decrease a variable with the minus minus operator. So this is the same as plus plus. Let's do a console log here. My var is now 10 because 11 minus 1 is 10. So change the code to use the minus minus operator on my var. Let's do that. Computer, please don't fight me. Ooh, Monica has a great point here. Is that true? I'm not sure. Thank you for sharing. Folks, by the way, if you're getting stuck or if you're getting lost, don't worry. These lessons are going to be up on YouTube at all times. So my var minus minus is console log my var. And that gives us 10. Fantastic. Let's run the tests one more time. Yes, pat on the back. We are 14% of the way done on our first lesson. How exciting. Ooh, create decimal numbers with JavaScript. So now we've got decimal numbers. Beforehand, we had whole numbers, but now we've got decimal numbers, and decimal numbers, as said, can be not whole numbers. So let's console log that and take a look at see what it looks like. Our decimal can be 5.7. Let's change it. Let's make it 5.75. You can have lots of numbers after the floating point. See? Lots of numbers after the floating point, and it'll get saved. So we can have decimal numbers here. Note, not all numbers can accurately be represented in floating point. This can lead to rounding errors. Details here. There's a link here in your free code camp that I highly recommend reading from Wikipedia on floating numbers. So if in case you're curious, there's also a fantastic resource called MDN. I was wondering if my assistants have a link for that they could put up. Yes, Mozilla's MDN web docs. If you look up MDN, this is a fantastic resource that's brought up by the community for learning not just web stuff, but also JavaScript. It's a great resource, and I highly recommend it for answering any questions you might have as well in that section. So let's keep going. Let's create a variable called myDecimal and give it a decimal value with a fractional part. Aha. So we want to create a variable called const myDecimal and give it the value of, let's give it a different one, 0.13. Console log. I want to make sure we're good. 0.13. We did it. Yes, pat on the back. Let's go to the next challenge. And I think this is going to be our last one for today before we go into Q&A, folks. So multiply two decimals with JavaScript. So we've got 2.0 times 0 times 0. What do we think this is going to give us? Console.log 0. Product 0. That's right. 2 times 0 is 0. So let's change this 0.0 so that the product is 5. That'll be 2 times, what do you think, folks? Let's see. 5 is equals to 2 times 2.5. Let's console log. Yes, 5. Fantastic. Let's run our tests. Yes. Pat on the back. Let's keep going. We got a great thing going here. Let's divide one decimal by another with JavaScript. So quotient equals 0 divided by 2.0. Let's change this line here. Change the 0.0 so that the quotient will equals to 2.2. So what's divided by 2 is 2.2. That would be, what do we think, folks? I'm going to go with 4.4. I'm going to console log just to be safe. Yep, that's 2.2. Let's see if the tests agree. Yep. Pat on the back. Oh, let's keep going. We're doing so good. Oh, this is where we stop for today, folks. We are at the top of the hour. So don't worry, we're going to continue from here tomorrow and we're going to just keep on going. We've done so much great progress today. I want to say congratulations. You did it. You survived the first lesson of JavaScript. I hope this was helpful. And if you've still got questions, well, now's the time. Folks in the chat, feel free to drop in your question and let's see how I can help. Somebody writes, enough pat for today. My shoulder is tired. Yeah, drop in any questions you might have. We're just hanging out now. Now, we relax, we breathe out. And now, what do we got? What kind of questions do you all have? And to my wonderful assistants, if you've got any questions that stand out to you, if any questions that stand out to you, please feel free to put them up as well. Oh, I saw one. Why do we use? Yes, any penalties to not using a semicolon after each line? You might have noticed that I was a bit sloppy before and missed the occasional one. That's because it's not strictly necessary. Let's ignore the lesson. Let's just use this as a little playground for learning. Const remainder equals 0. Console log remainder. You'll notice I didn't put up any semicolons. That's because it's okay. It's a good idea to put them in because here's a secret. You can put 2 commands in one line. How's that? And with the semicolon, it tells JavaScript, you want a new line. So that's one reason we do it. Not strictly necessary, but good to have. What else? Oh, I got a question here. Oh. Which is better to use, var or let? It is completely up to you. I recommend using let when you can. That's because you won't accidentally redefine let. If you remember from the previous lesson, let's go let remainder equals 0. And if I type in let remainder equals 5, it gives us that security of saying, hey, you've already made this, declared this variable. Not cool. Hope that answers your question. Oh, I have a question. I know the syntax of the language, but when it comes to building a project, I have no idea where to start. This is a great question as well. And learning comes from practice. You're already doing great by knowing the syntax of the language. We're actually, during these boot camps, going to have a couple of guest speakers come on every Thursdays to tell us about a little bit of real world application of some of these projects and or programming languages. So, right. So you will find some sessions here helpful for being able to do that. One thing you can do, for example, is check out a website like GitLab or GitHub to start doing some programming there. Find projects to contribute to if that's your thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. We're going to get there. Okay, folks, I realize you are asking a ton of great questions. And if I don't get to them, I'm so sorry. Please feel free to ask them in the forums as well. There are lots of wonderful people. If you're in the chat as well, feel free to answer some of these questions. It's super handy to do so. So again, I might miss your question and I apologize, but write it in the forum. That's what the forums are for. So let's see. Oh, will the Q&A portion be posted on the YouTube recorded video as well? Absolutely. Everything happening here is going to stay on YouTube. Oh, tomorrow at the same time? Yes, absolutely. Kirill asks, any homework for the next class? Nope. We made it as far as I wanted to make it, and tomorrow we will pick up from right this lesson, finding a remainder in JavaScript. So let's see what else we got. No homework. People are asking homework, no homework. If you want to go ahead, I'm not going to stop you. It'll help you come right in with lots of questions. But if you don't, that's fine too. Oh, Muhammad asks, can we continue both Web Dev Camp and JS Bootcamp? I would say you can if you have time. It would be ideal. And if you haven't checked out the Web Development Bootcamp, you absolutely should. Jessica is one of the best instructors I've. If y'all thought I was good, I'm kidding. But no, Jessica is amazing. check out the bootcamps on classcentral.com. You'll totally find them there. If you have time, you can do both. The web dev bootcamp will take place earlier in the day, about 8 in the morning where I am in Central Europe. So it depends. It depends on what you want. If you don't have time, if you're pressed for time, I would recommend only doing one of them at a time. Somebody's asking tomorrow time. Tomorrow, Wednesday, every day. Same time, same place. You'll get an announcement in any case. Somebody's asking, I'm a beginner to JavaScript. Can you give me an intro to it? I hope that this is what we're doing here. I highly recommend Free Code Camp. These materials are fully loaded with great materials for you to learn. Sign up at freecodecamp.com. Let's see. Can I still register myself with WebDev? My assistants, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think so. Absolutely. I can recommend the WebDev Bootcamp. It is excellent. See what else we got for questions. Oh, here's a question. Difference between console.log and document.write. Somebody's getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Console.log prints to your console, like you have here at the bottom of the window. Document.write prints to a website. And we're not going to get there yet. But yeah, that's the difference between the two. Yes, the boot camps are still open, I'm told. Let's see. Oh, can I have the link to the boot camp? You should. Yep, classcentral.com. You'll find all the boot camps there. Can I see the video after it's live? Yes, absolutely. It'll be all saved on YouTube. What time is in PST? That would be Pacific time. That would be, let's see, they start at 16 Central European time, so that should be 16 minus 9, 7 a.m. Pacific time. And you'll find the times on the bootcamp events page. Let's see what else we got. Please clear up the concept of capital letter case in const. Yes, it is recommended as a best practice, but not strict, to write your variable names with const in what's called screaming snake case. So if you have a const, it's recommended, but not strictly mandatory, to write it like this: remainder. And if you have more than one word, have it be a snake. Remainder of value, for example. This is what is recommended for const. Not super strict. You can also have it be this, remainder. It is recommended. What else we got? Ooh, class, thank you so much. Looks like I'm very wisely posting the link to the MDN. That you can totally check this out on MDN. It is a fantastic resource. Here's a question from Juan. The certificate at the end, is it the same doing or not the bootcamp? So if you will get a certificate if you complete the exercises on Free Code Camp. I believe there are some projects at the end of the bootcamp that we will do together. And if you complete those, you will get a certification through Free Code Camp. So what else we got? Ooh. Is there a place where people can get together to practice, like pair programming or mob programming? Or I can recommend the term ensemble programming as a better one. It's totally recommended to check stuff out. Look online. I don't have any recommendations off the top of my head right now, but that's just because I've been teaching for an hour and my brain's a little fried. Ooh, Hensi asks a great question. How can we be safe from keeping good practices when JavaScript is so permissive? That's a great question. And unfortunately, I don't have a fantastic answer for you. There are some resources you can use. For example, there are what are called linters, which are automatic programs that check your code and make suggestions. For example, hey, your const should be in screaming snake case. And what lots of programmers who are lazy like myself like to do is run these programs automatically. Let's see what else. Any other questions? If you, oh, let's see. Oh, whoa, we got a bunch. Oh, ensemble programming. Can we get a thread in the bootcamp forum for any of those places, Ramon? Feel free to create one, please. Bear in mind, these are moderated. We do have a code of conduct for the forum, so please stay safe, everybody. So, what else we got? Ooh, look at all these. Look at all these questions coming in. Let me see. I notice when declaring variables in JavaScript that data types aren't declared. No floating point, no string. Other programming languages require it. Why? This is an excellent question. You see, in other programming languages, you will normally be declaring variables will normally require that you specify what kind of a variable it is, what kind of data it holds. It can be a number, it can be a string, like the examples we've seen today. JavaScript doesn't require that. Why? This is what's called, oh dear, I forgot the name. It's not static, it's dynamic. JavaScript is a dynamic language, which means types can be dynamic. You can declare a variable to be a number and then change its value to be a string. It's just a design thing. So let's see what else we got. Oh, somebody's asking, if you do the free code camp alone without an instructor, you can still get the certificate through free code camp. Yes, absolutely. You can absolutely, if you're quicker than I am, go ahead and do all of the certification on your own. Somebody's saying, screaming snake are one cap letter with underscore. That is correct, Saravana. Yeah. Oh, somebody corrected me. Thank you, Muhammad. It's called weakly typed. That means that the types can be interchangeable for a variable. So how are we doing with questions? Any more questions that we've got? Ooh, somebody asks, are we going to learn about DOM and JSON in this bootcamp? I believe not. Do you know what? I've got this tab here. Let's take a look at what we're going to cover during this bootcamp. We're going to be covering, amongst other things, basic JavaScript. Let me just collapse this here. ES6, which if you remember from Let is a new flavor of JavaScript that's being added to browsers. Regular expressions, debugging, basic data structures, basic algorithm scripting, object-oriented programming, functional programming, intermediate algorithm scripting, JavaScript algorithms and data structures. Projects, these are the projects to get your certification. So no, in this bootcamp, we will not be covering those. Thank you for your question, though. Let's see what else we got. Can we practice the taught portion on this, or it will continue from here only? Do you mean whether tomorrow we will start up from remainder again? Where was that? Let me just bring it up. Sorry, I'm scrolling quickly. Let me scroll a little slower. Sorry, folks. Finding a remainder. We will start from here tomorrow. Feel free. Oh, feel free to continue on your own and bring your questions. It's all as you like to learn. We're learning together at our own pace. Now, Samar asks, kindly try out that postfix and prefix thing so that unders can understand as well, i.e. my var plus plus and plus plus my var. Ooh, let's try that out. So let's make this a let variable. Thank you for that. Remainder plus plus is going to give us console log remainder. Will give us 1. But as Samar here very correctly points out, if you do plus plus remainder, it also changes it to 1. Now you remember that question from before where somebody asked, what happens if you put in a plus? If you put in the remainder equals. What's happening here is when it gets evaluated. So this will do the plus plus after we set remainder to be equals remainder. This, which is called prefix, will evaluate plus plus remainder and then assign it to remainder. That's why it's 1. Here, it's 0. I hope that clarifies it. If you're gonna miss a lesson, don't worry. It's totally. Ooh, Pie Master says, Console log remainder plus plus and console log plus plus remainder should be the interesting part. Let's give that a try. Okay, thank you for the suggestion. So remainder plus plus is 0. That's because the plus plus gets evaluated after we console log. Let's try it the other way around. Here, the plus plus gets evaluated before we console log. That's why it shows 1. Thank you for the suggestion, Playmasta. Let's see. Do all variables need to be declared to be used? Yes. If we try and set remainder to 0, check it out. Remainder is not defined. So yes, we need to declare a variable in order to use it. These are great questions. Rajesh asks, will you help us through the projects as well? Absolutely. 100%. I will be there with you. I believe we're doing the first project next week. You can check the events in the free code in the Class Central schedule. I don't know if my wonderful assistants have the link there. And yeah, let's do one more question. Let's see. Let's see. Do let and var have the same focus? As I said before, let blocks you from redefining a variable more than once. Var allows you to redeclare a variable more than once. Hope that helps. All right. With that, folks, let's call it a day. We've had some wonderful questions and answers. We've learned lots together. And hey, don't worry, we're going to be here tomorrow and we'll be answering questions in the forums as well. I'll be around and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day and see you all on YouTube. This will be recorded automatically. Have a good one, everybody. Bye now.